It is no secret that the quality of education for students in low-income neighborhoods is much poorer than the education received by students in richer communities. This is a grave injustice further made intolerable by the promotion of the achievement ideology, a fallacy which promises that if people work hard enough, they can achieve anything.
We at Urban School Awakening believe that education can and should be the great equalizer, that regardless of people's race, gender, or class, they should be provided a quality education that offers them equitable entry into the nation's power structure.
The question then has to be asked, what is necessary to make this happen? Hi, and thanks for visiting our website, urbanschoolawakening.weebly.com. My name is Amira Saidi.
My name's Khadija Al-Asri.
We put together this presentation on the critical elements for organic urban school reform. By organic, we mean reform that is demanded, facilitated, and self-supported by the people who will benefit from the reform. The need for such a reform came from our experiences in under-resourced urban schools where we witnessed firsthand the subpar quality of the education our students were receiving. We also witnessed several packaged interventions that, even if they did produce positive results, were only temporary fixes, meaning they were not true self-sustaining reform, but rather sustained by the initial supporters of the interventions. So let's say a teacher or whomever presented the intervention left the school, then the intervention would crumble, meaning it would not be effective. So we set out to identify the critical elements necessary for under-resourced and/or underperforming schools in low-income neighborhoods to become institutions that help the youth of these communities to become their own empowered agents of reform. But before we present these elements, we want to first identify what the purpose of education is, or rather should be. We believe the purpose of education, or any critical social institution, should be to create citizens who will pursue social justice for all. The reasons for this purpose are many, but not the focus of this presentation. The three elements we believe that are critical for facilitating true self-sustaining school reform are critical pedagogy, academic rigor, and complementary and effective community school interactions. These three elements, when understood, applied, and utilized effectively, will yield students who will think critically, act ethically and purposefully, and work to empower and strengthen their communities. So let's quickly define each of these elements. Critical pedagogy is best understood when compared to traditional pedagogy. Firstly, pedagogy means how one teaches versus what one teaches. Traditionally, content is filtered through the teacher. The teacher then translates the information and presents it to students, who then have to regurgitate this information back to the teacher. With critical pedagogy, students are empowered as living, breathing, thoughtful knowledge holders and makers rather than vessels to be filled with information by their teachers. They all come together, student, content, and teacher, in the same problem space. With critical pedagogy, it's also stressed that information is not static or non-contextual. Samples of lessons utilizing this pedagogy can be found on the website. The second critical element is academic rigor. This is the what of teaching coupled with the culture of the classroom. Teachers set expectations for students, and whether stated or not, students sense whether the adults in their lives expect very much or very little from them and will only work to fulfill these predetermined expectations. The material in schools aiming to create critical thinking, purpose-driven individuals must have high standards and lessons of high cognitive demand. There should be very little to no memorization of concepts and no soul valuing of the end product. Carol Dweck, the social psychologist, explains in detail that teachers train students to value end products by only rewarding the end product of work. It is in the process of learning that critical intellectual skills are developed. Also, intellectual perseverance, or the ability to push through challenging cognitive tasks, is a very critical characteristic that is only developed by pushing through work of high cognitive demand. Let's take math education, for example. The process of deciphering math problems, understanding each component, etc. This is very critical to developing intellectual perseverance. The third element of our framework for urban school reform is effective and complementary community school interactions. At this point, I'm going to pass the mic over to my partner, Khadija Al-Asri.
To recap, we've already discussed how critical pedagogy and academic rigor come into play in the classroom. So as students engage in critical pedagogy and rigorous academia, they're able to look at their environs, which include their schools and communities, with a newfound perspective and skill set. The students' community is like a canvas for the students to use their skills and perspective that they're gaining in school. Now, one way to enable students to use the skills they gain in schools is through community school partnerships. For anyone who isn't familiar with this concept, a community school partnership is when some organization or group of people works with a school in some capacity. Now, in order for a community school partnership to be effective, though, it needs to be set up to empower the students who are involved. Often you have organizations who utilize their volunteers, or students in this case, by having them do tasks, basically. It's a delegation model. Typically you have a director who tells people what to do, and the people do what the director asks. A community school partnership that complements a school that follows this philosophy of critical pedagogy and academic rigor needs to be modeled such that all the partners are on the same playing field and engage in critical thinking, not only delegation. Further, the organization is complementary in that it's an organization that's organic and relevant to that community. Let me explain this concept with a specific example. So in Detroit, an organization which is ideal for a community school partnership is Mass Youth Detroit. The mission of Mass Youth Detroit is to move young people to strive for God consciousness, social justice, and to convey Islam with utmost clarity. The way it works is through guided community organization. So people who are interested in some social justice cause can get involved, and after getting involved, they're able to engage in discussion and planning around whatever social justice cause they choose to focus on, all the while engaging in critical thinking. It's a complementary organization to many of the Detroit schools because its members have arisen from Detroit, and it deals with issues relevant to the Detroit population. Okay, so in summary, we've discussed these three elements in the form of a framework. But what we're actually discussing here is a philosophy. It's a matter of developing a habit of mind when engaging any social institution. Whether it's one school, in your community, or religious circle, you could even run a business on this philosophy.
So it is essentially about expanding a child's toolkit. You can never teach a child every bit of information out there in the world, but you can provide them the skills necessary to confidently approach and analyze any information or problem they encounter. So through the use of critical pedagogy, you allow students to develop the critical thinking skills that include analysis, synthesis, evaluation, critical reflection, etc. Through the demand for academic rigor, you allow students to develop perseverance, content understanding, agency. And by facilitating the interaction between the student's school and their community, you provide them the space to apply and further develop these skills in real time. An added bonus, this makes their learning that much more relevant to them. This is definitely just the beginning. What we have here is a starting point, and there's a lot of work yet to be done. Please visit our website. There you'll find more information, links to videos and resources, and just a whole lot of fun. Thanks for listening. Signing off, Amira Saidi,
Khadija Al-Asri.